Oh, here, take this. Every human has at least one of these in their homes.
What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. Well. The world is getting crazy out there. My job is actually suspended for the time being, and I'm going to be working at home for the foreseeable future. So fortunately, I'm still getting paid, which is nice. But this is starting to get real. So I figured that I need to do my part in easing the panic of this disease Armageddon we find ourselves in. And I've decided to talk more Steven Universe Future, especially because the new episodes have been dropping. So I figure now's a good time to escape into the fantasy world, to forget all our woes, and talk about another series coming very close to its end after running for many, many years. So let's all get snuggly in our doomsday bunkers, grab your toilet paper and your hand sanitizer and hug it tightly, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's talk Steven Universe. Now, before getting into it, let's reference the speed paint. Today, I decided to draw Pearl with her magical roll of toilet paper that she can summon from her head. I found it very interesting that that toilet paper reference was made around this time, and they're not. I highly doubt that they're making a reference to the TP panic that's been going on, because these episodes take quite a while to kind of go through the production process before they're put out. So this TP joke thing was thought of months ago, but it's still kind of funny that it's coming out. So I decided to pay homage and have Pearl make a new business in scalping toilet paper. So yeah, that's the and also because it's also a reference to Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender and his little marble trick that he does. But yeah, so that's what's going on in the picture. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's talk about the show. What I really find interesting about these last few episodes is that they're really steering away from the magical side of the show, as much as they can. I mean, we're obviously still seeing gem powers being used, hence the toilet paper and the Steven constantly glowing. But I noticed that they're really starting to push into this whole return to normalcy, or in the show's case, a direction towards normalcy where there was no normalcy before. A lot of the episodes, I notice, revolve around Steven struggling with the changes in his life now that the war is over, now that there is no more great big bad guy to fight, and how much it's really messes with him. And it's really interesting to watch that. Because there's no more giant existential threats, it seems that Steven's modes of comfort revolve around the modes of comfort you would seek during wartime, like tight camaraderie and inside references that you would have amongst your fellow soldiers and whatnot. And now that that's all going away, now that he's made a little homeworld, and gems are starting to integrate into society, and all of his human friends, particularly Connie, are starting to move on with their lives, he really feels left behind. And that's really weird kind of watching, and I'm kind of glad that they're acknowledging what happens after the magical adventure ends. Steven's struggle with change to normalcy reminds me of two specific things. The first one is actually The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, basically J.R.R. Tolkien's world that he made. Because when he wrote The Hobbit was this magical kids' adventure story that you tell your kids at bedtime. About a little short guy in a funny hole and a wizard and a bunch of dwarves, and they're off to go fight a dragon, and there's going to be magic and wonder and whimsy. And then after that comes The Lord of the Rings, where a lot of the innocence and whimsy of the Hobbits are stripped away almost, or if not stripped away, revealed to be something more sinister. Big example, of course, being the ring itself. It's really fascinating to watch how in the story of the Lord of the Rings, all the fancy and whimsy that once existed, like dragons and trolls and fairies, and I don't know if there's fairies and the point is, like, all the magical stuff is starting to fade away. There's even a lot of references in Lord of the Rings. I'm talking specifically about the movies because I'm one of those plebeians who haven't really read the books. But like, even that scene in Fellowship where Bilbo's like, dragons haven't been seen in 1,000 years or 100 years or whatever. However long ago Smaug happened. And, there's a big thing about like how the elves are going off to the Undying Lands and leaving the world behind. Because it's now the age of man, right? It's the age of humanity. And all of this magic is starting to fade away. And Steven Universe is starting to feel like that. Like the age of the high gem adventure has come to an end. And the age of normalcy and ho-humdrum is on its way in. And I don't mean like ho-humdrum as in like everything sucks, but like everything is starting to not be about giant puffer fish or hands in the sky descending upon the world, and giant existential threats are essentially over for the sake of the story of Steven Universe. And Steven almost feels uncomfortable. Actually, no, there's no almost about it. He does feel uncomfortable about the fact that all of that is going away. The second thing this really reminds me of is actually something far more real, something far more close to home, and that's the concept of soldiers coming home from wartime, veterans having to integrate back into normal civilian society. The latest episode of Steven Universe covers that a lot. I'm not going to get terribly spoilery, but one of the latest episodes kind of talks about how Steven effectively has PTSD because he spent his entire childhood in a gem war. The only thing he's ever known really is fighting monsters, dealing with crazy gems who are trying to kill him, being in situations where even like his own body is turning against him, and all of this stuff. And it's a lot of really hyper traumatic experiences for anyone, let alone a child. It's kind of acknowledged in the latest episode that came out that that's really what's going on with him. This is the reason why he's seeing all these changes, all these people moving on with their lives, gems integrating into society, essentially feeling useless now that he's no longer a great gem savior war hero. And it's really starting to bug him. It's really starting to basically trigger a lot of stress in him, which is the reason why he's glowing a lot. It's a manifestation of stress. It's really interesting that they're finally kind of acknowledging that, because one of the things I always thought of when I would watch shows where like little kids go save the world is like, man, they're going to have a lot of trauma. And like, this is one of the first, it's not the first time trauma has ever been like explained in a show before. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender actually does it pretty well. But this is the first time I've seen it where someone straight up sits Steven down and tells him, yo, this is kind of what you're going through and you need to understand this. It's really interesting how much of a parallel that is to a lot of what veterans face when they come back. And I'm speaking from the American perspective, like, all these veterans coming back stateside and having to reintegrate into society when they're so used to being in a high stakes life or death situation where any little thing can trigger PTSD, and it's really difficult to kind of get back into it. One thing I noticed studying a lot about like the difficulty veterans have integrating back into civilian society is there's a lot they miss about wartime, which is strange because wartime is crazy. But one of the things they say is that in war, everything is so structured in a way. And I guess what I gather by what they mean by structured is like they have such a close bond with their fellow soldiers because they're in that life or death situation. So they develop a bond, such a deep like brotherhood that they find nowhere else in the civilian world. Because it's military, everything is hyper structured. So having to go back into a civilized world where there is no hard schedule to follow, you can just kind of go willy-nilly, they feel lost. I'm getting a lot of that sense from Steven, like he's feeling lost. He no longer is in wartime, so he feels lost. He's essentially a soldier coming back from war, and he's going through that very same struggle, which is, of all the shows that would make that kind of parallel, I am rather surprised, but also at the same time not surprised that it's Steven Universe of all shows addressing that. Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say for today, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it here. So you guys know what to do. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and hit the sacred buttons. You know, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell so you know what's coming next. Go ahead and comment down below because I would love to hear your thoughts if you've been watching Steven Universe Future as well. I would like to know what your guys' thoughts about the whole PTSD connection. Some of you may have PTSD. Hell, some of you may even be veterans, and that would be interesting to hear your take on it. In addition, go ahead and share the video. I always say that because it does me good, it does the channel good, and it lets everyone know that you have good taste because you watch my content that I fart out on a regular basis. And of course, as per usual, I will go ahead and link my intro video, which has the links to all of my other social media, where you can click on. I'm going to go ahead and put it up here on the screen, but if you want to, you know, take the easy route and just click on them to go directly to there, I'll link it to my intro video which has all those links in that description box. And with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you all stay safe in this time of trouble, and I hope you have plenty of supplies and TP. And until next time, deuces.